Hello, welcome back to part 4 of Mobile Suit Gundam, a retrospective on mobile suit development. My name's Dan Gomez, and today we'll be covering Federation ground mobile suits and the Federation side of things on the ground warfare side of the 1 Year War. Sorry, it's been a long time. I've been busy. Had an internship. Um, did my second monitor wasn't working for a while. I'm using one of my spares. It fixed itself actually. It fixed itself literally 5 seconds ago. So um I don't know what's happening over there. So welcome back. Last time we covered um all the way up to the Zigok and right here, the Federation's ground units. A quick summary of everything beforehand. This is just a quick recap for both you and me. Before this point, the Principality of Xeon, a space colony established by the Earth Federation back in the early UC double in back in the beginning of the early years of the Universal Century Calendar. The space colony of Side 3, or the space colony cluster of Side 3, declared independence on 0079. In preparation for their war, they created giant humanoid robots for use in space, and that and then it turned out to be really good. And then they declared war for their independence. Now, before this part, we just covered Amuro Ray, a very important part, Amuro Ray being a new type combat potential, and Xeon's ground units for the use in the war. For this part, we'll be covering the Federation's ground units, important events leading up to the development of the gym, up to the beginning of beginning of the grand offensive on the space front of things for the 1 Year War. So, alright. So for this first slide, Federation ground units, how to win a war. In response to Xeon's various ground units that were basically wreaking havoc amongst the front lines, with Earth Federation ground forces being forced to mobile to fight anti-mobile suit combat in the forms of conventional warfare, such as tanks, infantry, all that sort of thing. They were losing a lot of people. The Earth Federation was hit with this realization. The same realization they realized back in the beginning in the 1 week battle, which we've already discussed in an earlier part. But mobile suits were good, and they need to develop their own, especially now with the ground front all across Earth being pushed in such an aggressive blitzkrieg with from Xeon's mobile suits. The Earth Federation ground forces took drastic action, and so they started developing and producing their own ground use mobile suits for the front lines in order to handle Xeon's own mobile suits for anti-mobile suit combat. I said mobile suit a lot. These prototype mass production units and limited production test types would be the foundation in which the Federation would learn how to produce, develop, and what is good about a mobile suit. You can't. Basically the foundation of everything the Federation will build up to when they spoilers. But basically, these ground units would form the foundational roots in which mobile suit development on the side of the Earth Federation of things would begin in true honesty. Well, yes, Project V would be the foundational core bedrock in which that knowledge for mobile suit development would come from. These units would actually be the roots. These would be the seeds that would blossom into proper mobile suit development that the Federation would use. The development this prerogative from the Earth Federation ground forces would start the development of two very special units that I really love and I think you'll really love, which would be the development of the ground Gundams, ground gyms for use in the heaviously embattled front lines on the Earth front. The first unit we'll be talking about is the RX-79G Ground Gundam. Battle footage. These things would be created from spare parts of the RX-78, which is the Gundam we talked about earlier in the previous part on Project V. With the Project V prototype units being, destroyed, a lot of spare parts were just lying around in military bases in the military headquarters of Jaburo. And since mass production of the RX-78 was not viable, as they looked at the costs of each unit, and just thought it would be easier to maintain Amro's RX-78-2, the Earth Federation ground forces took it upon them to requisition the spare parts of the Gundam to create ground units, units to fill in the role of anti-mobile suit combat or for anti-mobile suit combat and mobile suit combat in of itself. They needed a mobile suit quick, so they requisitioned these parts and developed something new, the ground Gundam. These things would be very, very durable compared to most machines. Since these machines would be made by spare parts that could be created with spare parts, this meant that the armor material of these ground Gundams would be made of a polycomposite armor of Luna Titanium and normal Luna Titanium, Gundarium, which might be a spoiler, but Luna Titanium and other sorts of heavy, super hard, durable metal alloys, such as normal titanium or steel. This would make the RX-79 ground Gundam being massively more durable than most mass production mobile suits of its time against most mass production Xeon mobile suits that the ground Gundam would be fought against. But because of the Luna Titanium spare parts that were fitted onto this unit, and the limited supply of spare parts that the Earth Federation ground forces could requisition, only 20 or so units were created, and around a batch of 20 units were created to be sent on the front lines. These units would be very high performance, around the same performance as RX-78 on ground. But since these units were developed with ground usage in mind, there was no developmental reason for them to develop any space use or vernier package for this machine to be used in space. This is strictly a ground use mobile suit. That's fun. A development of the Gundam is the early gyms, and you're probably gonna be asking me one question. Dan, you said that the Earth Federation ground forces developed two units for ground use combat, the ground gym and the ground Gundam. Why did you include an early space use mobile suit in this slide as well? Well, this is very important. So, taking information from the ground Gundam and the Gundam itself, the Federation needed their own mobile suit. They needed their own mass production mobile suit in comparison to the Xeon Zaku, because while the Zaku, while weak, pretty fragile, and was quickly becoming outdated, was mass producible, was cheap, and could be produced by the dozens, and could be used to fill out bodies on the front lines, which the Federation, was losing, because you can have a lot of people, but if you're not equipping those people with the right equipment, the quantity is not going to have its own quality, right? So the Federation had to develop their own mass production mobile suits, and the main mobile suit that they based their developmental data on was RX-78-2, Amuro Rei's Gundam. This is why his data was so important, and why I said it was very, very crucial when I spoke about it in the Amuro Ray slide back in Project B. Amuro Ray's combat data on the RX-78-2 became the baseline for what can be the benchmark for mobile suit performance for the Federation. With the Federation having prime combat data, limits of a mobile suit's performance, and an evaluation on what the on the parts usage, on mass production, the wear and tear of certain components. What Amuro Ray's combat performance showed is that they needed a mobile suit that could achieve Amuro Ray's numbers in theory. It didn't need to achieve them in practice, just that if someone was good enough, it could be achievable. And so that's what the Federation chose to do. If we can't make everyone a Gundam, then we can make every mobile suit the chance to be Gundam like. And so the trend was take the RX-782 and make it cheaper and easier to use, while also not skimping on the potential for the performance to be increased. So this created the development line of the GM, the RGM-79, RGM standing for Renpo GM. The meaning for GM is heavily debated upon within the fandom. Most people agree either it is general model, which is perfectly fine. It's the general mobile suit that the Federation uses for the next few decades or so, or Gundam mass production, which I personally lean towards because that's cooler. Anyways, taking in this design philosophy, this splintered the development of the gym two ways. So, when developing this new Gundam mass production time, this general model, the gym, when developing this gym, the Earth Federation decided that we need mobile suits on both fronts right now, and we can then join those two mobile suits to make one functional mobile suit that can work on all fronts, which would be better, a multi-role unit. But right now, they needed to know what the stresses of what stresses mobile suits will have to go under on each front, because a space use mobile suit and a ground use mobile suit will face different environmental stresses, as well as component different stresses on different components. Ugh. I'm not cutting that out. That's staying in. But so they developed two different prototype gyms. The RGM-79 early type for space, and RGM-79G for ground use. These units are very interesting. For the RGM-79G, they were based on the initial frame that was made with the RGM with the RX-79G. See, with the ground Gundams, their frame was a completely new model. While certain components were shared with RX-78 too, the frame of the RX-79G was completely new. Its frame was a completely new modular model, so it could be easily retrofitted, since spare parts, they were made out of spare parts, so they could be easily retrofitted with compatible components for field repairs. So taking this in mind, and with already sorties from the ground Gundams already being done, they created the RGM-79G, which is a mass production mobile suit to fill in the production role of the ground Gundams, since they were already outdone with production. They couldn't make more than 20, so they made the RGM-79G. Greater numbers, lower performance, but still pretty good performance, right? It's like going from 100 to 90 when your enemy's mobile suit can only go 70. Like, sure, it's lower, but like that's still pretty good. The RGM-79E, on the other hand, this thing does not have the same good reputation as the RGM-79G has. While the RGM-79G showed showed massive potential for mass production, for mass production, as well as capabilities on par with the RX-79G ground Gundam. The early space use type went really poorly. See, Earth Federation pilots in space were still very used to space fighters, jets, linear travel, no sharp turns. So when these early types were sorted out, they had a casualty rate that was really high. People died, like a lot. One of the best pilots that have been shown on screen for the RGM-79 early type was a sole survivor. It really goes to show that, yeah, it's a good mobile suit. On specs wise, the space use combat model for the RGM-79 early type was a good mobile suit. It had good thrust, good maneuverability, good acceleration. The fundamental flaw that was the RGM-79 early type's weakness was its pilots. The pilots that the pilots that the Federation were putting into the RGM-79 early types just weren't used to mobile suit combat, and because with the space fleet's pilots already being gutted from the 1 week war, and with Zeon basically having space superiority for the entire war, competent pilots were kind of on the shortage on the space front. So, massive differences. But these two models would signal a change and a very marketable note in the Federation's design philosophy in having mass production mobile suits that are modular, high performance, but not too high performance. Mobile suits that can be utilized as a really good mobile suit with a good pilot, but if you put someone stupid in there, they'd still get some kills, right? Like, the whole point of the whole philosophy the whole philosophical lesson that the Federation would learn with these two units was, we gotta make something easy to produce, easy to pilot, but not too limiting if someone good is in there, right? So taking these into account, the Federation was then left with the unfortunate question of new types, new type emulation systems, or basically, how do you fight demigod pilots? See, with the main question that arises with the Jim and Gundams, especially with Armor Ray, you're probably you're gonna be left with this one question, the same question that the Federation is: how do you fight someone like Armor Ray, a new type with pseudo future knowledge? He has precognition. He has instantaneous reaction times, and in a mobile suit, he can pilot to a level that can kill ace pilots and eat them up. How do you deal with pilots that are that good? And so the Federation was left with the question, how do you fight demigods like Amuro Ray? See, now, with the Jim, they already answered the question, how do we fight the mobile suit? We make our own good mobile suits, better than their mobile suits. Now, after that, how do we fight good mobile suit pilots? The Federation was left with one answer. It's increasingly scary dilemma. It was the defection of one Zeon scientist studying the new type phenomena in Zeon, who defected from the Principality of Zeon, because you gotta hear me out. The Principality of Zeon thought that his scientific research was too expensive and inhumane. The Nazis thought the scientist was too inhumane. It's insane. But this one Xeon scientist would take his research, defect from the Principality, and join the Earth's Federation, creating and developing the exam system. This subsystem that would be implemented into mobile suits would utilize esoteric and unethical science that could bring all types, humans that do not have the abilities of new types, to the level of new type aces by utilizing the soul of a new type. It's insane. The fact that Xeon would exile this guy for his unethical experiments, for cruel and inhumane acts, is insane. But that's not even the crazy part. The even crazier part is that they would have kept him on the team if they had the budget. They cut him out because of layoffs. This entire slide is just it's so dumb. This is insane, but that's the exam system. These systems were the first steps in the Federation's anti-new type policy. Basically, with Almaro Ray showing the potential of new types, the Federation had to go and get ready for the fact that if we have a new type, what if the other guy has a new type? And so these the steps in developing this program would become foundational the political beginnings for anti-new typism further in the universal century. The exam system would then be implemented into like multiple test type units with an entire design lineage of their own, which is so complicated, and it's basically it's a manga sideline. It's a manga side plot, but I'm really only adding this because I think it's stupid funny, and they're stupid cool looking. These two units, that I will be highlighting from this time period, were also developed in the 1 Year War. So these two units would be the Pale Rider and the Blue Destiny. As you can see, these two units would have different subsystems, but these subsystems ultimately come from the same design lineage of the exam system. For the first mobile suit we'll cover for this slide is the Blue Destiny. Footage. The exam for the Blue Destiny, the Blue Destiny would be the first model that would utilize the exam system. This system would temporarily increase mobile suit performance by unlocking limiters, overheating the mobile suit to its limits. Basically, just what if we made it go faster? We overclocked the mobile suit itself, as well as the piloting interface or something. It's not really specified the exact science of which it increases mobile suit performance or pilot performance, but since the fact that it uses a new type soul, I think basically this is headcanon here. The exam system overclocks actuators and the generator of the mobile suit, so it could generate more power into generating faster reaction and movement within the mobile suit, temporarily increasing the mobile suit performance before it overheats and has to shut down, because it's overclocking the mobile suit, while also hijacking the mobile suit piloting interface by then overlaying the new type soul over the interface, which would then interact with the pilot, temporarily giving them new type abilities. That is a somewhat shoddy explanation, but that is what I think happens in the exam system. There's not much cool stuff I can go. There's a lot of fun developmental tidbits I could go on about the Blue Destiny, but I don't want to cover that now, and I think that would be a separate video on its own time. But if you want to know more, the Gundam wiki is always open. You can read about it. It's a very cool mobile suit. I'm really only including it because it's like cool looking. For the next mobile suit is the Blue Pale Rider. this thing would have the Hades system. See, the Hades system would be the technical brother or sister system to the exam system. The Hades system took the approach that the exam system did, and since that this system didn't have a new type soul in there, the Hades system basically did everything the exam system did, but instead of utilizing a new type soul to increase pilot performance, it it like you had like drugs in your system, and then you got tubes. I think you had like a cranial interface within the mobile suit, and then it would overclock the neurotransmitters in your frontal lobe by increasing the potential between neurons, and then it would fire them faster faster. So it basically gave you a faster reaction speed forcibly. This system would have several side effects, and it would and with continued usage of the system would cause neural degradation and dementia within the pilot. The system was pretty fucking rough, very insane. It was very cool. It glows red, and it glows red. Yeah, both units glow red, but like, this is the Pale Rider. The Pale Rider glows like this footage, and the Blue Destiny glows like this footage. But after that, that's the new type emulation perform. That's the new type emulated performance mobile suits. This is really just a side tangent. I just think these things are really cool. Now, for the next really important history lesson of this, the white base arrives at Jabro. The war is won. See, back in the Project V Project V Project V video, I don't know if I said anything about this, but the white base was doing testing at Site 7, was attacked, and had to go escape down to Earth, and they had their whole journey. So basically, to recap and continue that journey, because it's actually really important for mobile suit development, the white base, containing vital experimental data on Project V and Amro's combat data, would then go through a series of events that are way too long to explain here. Would then travel to Jabro after participating in several combat operations, and then contribute the Amro's combat data and the experimental data from Project V, and then give it to Jabro for them to improve the existing gyms and mobile suit development of the future gym line. This data would then be implemented to make the operation controls of gyms to be more reactive and prove over a baseline Amro's combat data, and hopefully increase survivability for gym pilots in the future. Zeon, with the loss of Odessa, which is, I should have covered that, but basically Odessa was lost. I'm not explaining that. That's way too complicated. Way too complicated. But they lost Odessa. The Zeon lost Odessa, and with them, Federation mobile suits encroaching on all of their territory and forcing withdrawal of all Zeon forces from Earth, took one piece of information from this decaying situation and said, the white base must be destroyed for the data they carry. For the data they carry may allow the Federation to create mobile suits that are better than Zeon's mobile suits, and committed a final counteroffensive against Jabro right as white base arrived and delivered the data. With the arrival of the data used to improve the performance of existing mass production gyms on base, as well as Amro himself being on Jabro, the Federation would easily defend against this final counteroffensive, and shortly begin counteroffensive operations in space, with Zeon on the withdrawal on Earth. That it was a rough scenario. I could wait. Uh, Pull up the footage of Char punching a gym. That has no context. I just really want you to see this. You're not gonna. I'm not seeing the footage, but I've edited it in. It's really cool. Now you're probably wondering, gym? What do you mean existing gyms? Don't they only have the space use gym and the ground gym? Why aren't you specifying? Or is that like the general term? Well, actually, the gym is RGM's 79 gym. This thing is the veritable gym. The Soldier's Gundam. This thing has way too many variants. It has a sniper variant, a sniper custom variant. There's 4 different sniper variants for this damn unit. There's a heavy weapons custom unit. There's a full armor custom unit. You don't want to get me started on full armor. There's a land combat unit. There's an aquatic unit. There's basically this thing was the Federation's M4. It was the Federation's Zaku. This thing was modular, high performance, simple to produce, and was easy to pilot as hell. Armed with a small little beam spray gun, which is a weaker version of the Gundam's beam rifle, that while several magnitudes than the beam rifle, could still penetrate a Zaku quite easily at point blank, which is fine enough. And a beam saber. This thing was leagues above in performance to the Zaku. It was better than the Zaku, but unfortunately, this thing would still be quite low performance against what Zeon was finally mass producing in response to the Gundam. But for a mass production unit, could still hold on on its own pretty well. This thing was the ultimate culmination of the ground gym's data and the early types data, creating a multi-role unit that can both function on Earth and in space. This thing was the Federation's goldmine. And also the main caveat of the gym, aside from the weaker weapons and the one beam saber, is the fact that it didn't have Luna Titanium armor. Luna Titanium is really expensive, and as stated from the Project V video, they didn't have the facilities to mass produce it. So these gyms would be manufactured with existing metals and armor materials such as normal titanium or steel. That's those sorts of composites metals. It was durable enough. It was good enough. It was the gym. Good enough. Good enough. This thing would then be utilized up until the end of the 1-year war, where Earth would finally be retaken by the Earth Federation, with Zeon's withdrawal completely from the ground front, with the loss of Odessa and the loss at Jaburo. The Federation would then begin combat operations against Zeon in space, with space fleets launching from Earth and meeting up in designated control points that the Federation still had control over in space. And several more plots and shenanigans would then begin, which I will then cover in the next video, where we will cover late 1-year war machines, shit happening, and more autism, I guess. I had fun. I'm not gonna edit this until tomorrow. I want you all to know. So that is the Federation's ground units and the end of the ground war for the 1-year war. Thanks for watching. This thing was a lot more coherent than the last video. I was babbling. I recorded that at like 12 a.m. This is a lot more coherent. I'm recording this at like 10:40. So thank you for like staying here to the end. Uh, See ya. Okay. Um, I need to stop recording. Yes.